It's Big Board Sports with Roger Ryland on 104.5 The Team.
Hey, Sean Farnham is outstanding ESPN college basketball analyst, and he joins us here on Big Board Sports. The college hoop season ready to roll. And again, we're the home of Albany men's basketball, and I'll be on the road at Penn State for the game tomorrow night. My partner will not be with me, Zachary Bai. He's going to do football at New Hampshire on Saturday, so split crews this weekend.
And then we'll team up in Cincinnati.
Cincinnati on Monday on the road. UA at Cincinnati, all part of the 2K. The 2K Classic. Sean Farnham joins us for a few minutes. Good morning, Sean.
Morning. How's it going? It's that time of year, guys.
Yeah, man.
I mean, that's the best. That's the best thing. You know, listening to you guys talk about the winter and the landscape changing as far as our nation goes right now, as far as weather goes. Not other things. We're staying away from that. But I love the fact that it's college basketball season, and you know, so much excitement coming into this year. And over the last couple of seasons, when you look at college basketball as a whole, each year, the storyline changes as far as the focus, what we should be looking for. At times, we've had years where we've had great teams. Other seasons, we've had years where we've had the freshman focus, like we had a couple of years ago. I think this year, we have a combination of both, and that's what excites me as a person that gets to now spend the next 6 months covering this sport.
And Sean, let's localize it here just a little bit off the top. You Albany at Penn State. I'm sure you don't have Penn State winning the Big Ten. Where is that program at right now? And doing a little bit of homework. It looks like they're pretty young, and I'm sure they'll be a very formidable opponent for the University of Albany tomorrow night. But where do you have Penn State right now in the landscape of the Big Ten?
Well, you look at Coach Chambers, and his mantra is there's a lot of things you can't control, but the one thing you can is your attitude. And often you'll see him wearing a band that says attitude on his wrist. And when he feels like things are kind of going sideways, he'll snap it just to remind himself of his attitude. But what he expects out of his guys is an incredible work rate. And so what you can expect is a team that is young, a team that probably isn't in the top half of the Big Ten, but has some talented parts, but is going to play extremely hard and protect their home floor. And that's kind of, I think, what you could expect on the surface of tomorrow's game. Or the game coming up this weekend. But I think Coach Chambers has done a really good job. I think Penn State basketball is a difficult program to recruit to, especially when you're looking inside the Big Ten, based on geography, your recruitable areas around campus. When they go to recruit, they're having to go into Pittsburgh or Philadelphia. And obviously in Philadelphia, there's a plethora of colleges that they have to deal with. But when you go into Pittsburgh, you're dealing with Pitt and the ACC. So there's challenges that have presented themselves, but yet when you look at what Coach Chambers has been able to do consistently as far as getting guys to play hard, I think they're starting to make the turn now as far as getting quality on the roster that can eventually start moving this program up inside the Big Ten.
That game tomorrow night at 7 o'clock. We'll be on the air at 6:30 with the pregame show. The other team, Syracuse, Sean, we have a lot of SU Orange fans around here. We know that team lost a lot of the NBA draft. What should our local fans expect out of Jim Boeheim's team this year?
I would suspect that they're probably going to stay in a 2-3 zone. I would suspect that that's going to happen. No, you know what? I think, look, all jokes aside, it's the system that is in place. Why do we see so much consistency within college basketball? We see teams get guys, and they come and they go, but at the end of the day, at the end of the year, the programs that usually are elite end up in a really good situation, and that's because of the talented coaches that we have in college basketball. Our game is more coach-driven than the NBA game, which is obviously more player-driven because of the free agency and the turnover. Now, college basketball has gotten into that kind of gray area as far as that goes because of the number of transfers that we've seen and also the number of players that are now leaving early to go into the NBA draft. So when you have a year where you lose a ton after a successful run and an unexpected run to the Final Four, when you come back the following year, I think expectations kind of take a step back. But when you say take a step back at Syracuse, it's not like you're talking about not making the NCAA tournament, not advancing out of the first round. You're saying, okay, well, maybe this year's team is more of a Sweet 16 team than it is an actual Final Four team. And I think that's probably a very realistic way to look at this team this upcoming season.
ESPN Sean Farnham joining us. Sean, Duke brings back Grayson Allen, Emil Jefferson is back healthy. They've got one of the best recruiting classes in the country, if not the best. They got that combination of experience and depth. Is it them and the rest of the field, or is there a couple teams that are close?
Well, I think Kentucky's really close. And now I've been fortunate enough to spend about 2 weeks with Kentucky already and watch them practice and see this talented freshman class. The character of this class is as good as any I've seen. I'm not just talking about the skill. I'm talking about the actual character of these guys, the way they compete, the way that they speak, the way they conduct themselves, the focus that they have. So that's what really stood out to me when I was at Kentucky. Now, Kentucky doesn't have shooters from the outside, at least consistent shooters from the outside. Their best outside shooter might be Derek Willis, who's more of a stretch four and not from a guard position. When you look at Duke, they have everything that you need. The problem with Duke right now, obviously, has been some injuries early in the season, and Giles going down once again. Now, it's not expected to be a long-term injury, so if they're healthy, on paper, they are the best team in the country. I'll give you a couple of other teams, though, that you should be looking for, and maybe some of them that aren't on your radar screen or aren't on your audience's radar screen. Oregon was very close to making the Final Four a season ago. They return essentially everybody. They've got two great shot blockers underneath that can protect the rim, which is allowing them to pressure out a little bit more this season. Like Duke, they have some injury issues right now. Dylan Brooks has been out, and he's a potential first-team All-American caliber player. So if he's out for any long extended period of time, that does change things a little bit for Dana Altman's team. But as long as he's healthy by the start of conference play, I would expect Oregon to be a team that's going to continue to rise as the season goes along. The other team out west, and this is going to be one that people are going to maybe go, well, how do you figure as much? They lost Kyle Wiltshire. They lost the bonus, Gonzaga. Gonzaga reloaded with three very talented transfers. Jonathan Williams from Missouri, Nigel Williams-Goss, who was all Pac-12 when he was at Washington, and then Jordan Matthews, who is an excellent outside shooter from Cal. They have all the pieces when you add in Shemet Karnowski is back, who missed all of last season with a back injury at 7 feet tall, to make a Final Four run, and this could be the year for Mark Few. He got close a couple of years ago with Kevin Pangos and that group that lost in the Elite Eight, but this could be a Final Four talented team for Gonzaga. And so when you start looking across the country, don't just look at, and this is where I go back to what I said originally about college basketball this upcoming season. It's a great combination of very talented freshmen. This is maybe the deepest talented freshman class that we've seen in the last 10 years. So at the top of the class, we may not have those big-time names like the Ben Simmons of the world that we promote from day one, and you're going to learn about these freshmen as time goes on. But depth within this freshman class was outstanding. Couple that with the fact that where this talent went. See if teams like Indiana getting back on the map when Thomas Bryant is back this year, James Blackman Jr. You've got North Carolina, Duke, primed and ready to go, as well as Kansas. Arizona should be very strong again. They've got some issues off the court right now with Lonzo Trier. UCLA is much better. They've got a talented freshman by the name of Lonzo Ball, who's likely to be a one-and-done, triple-double type guy almost every single night for UCLA. So when you have the quote-unquote blue bloods of college basketball all elevated up at a top 25 clip right now, we haven't seen that for a while where we've had all of them step up in the same year. And so I think that's why there's a better buzz for college basketball this year. And I think that's why these conference races are going to be so dynamic. And you brought up Syracuse. You look at the ACC this year, it is, I mean, it's getting to the point now where when this was all assembled, everybody said, would it be what the Big East used to be? And I think we're very, very close to that. If not, we're right where they would want to be. Because I think when you look at Duke, Carolina, Louisville, Virginia has some question marks. They lost a lot, but they still got London Ferrantes, one of the best point guards and playmakers and distributors of the basketball in the college game. I think it's going to be a really wild ride. And teams like North Carolina State have a guy like Dennis Smith Jr., who's so dynamic and so talented. There's not a gimme game, really, when you look at the ACC schedule this year.
We're talking college basketball, season ready to roll here. Sean Farnham with us on Big Board Sports. Sean, we got a local kid, Kevin Herter's at Maryland as a freshman. We're hearing he might get a lot of playing time very early on. What's your thoughts on this Maryland team coming off a really good season a year ago?
Yeah, I think Mark Turgeon's squad is obviously the key for that whole entire roster, though, is Melo Trimble. And having Melo back makes things so much easier as far as integrating in the new pieces that they're going to be counting on to find success. And so for me, that's kind of the focus point when you start talking about Maryland. But it's always great talking college basketball with you, and I look forward to talking to you soon.
You got it. Take care, Sean. Good job,
Thanks,
Sean Farnham, with us here on Big Board Sports.